Hey, 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 for tasty true crime. Hey, 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 for tasty true crime. Yeah. So what's up? You're here with me again. Baby Firefly, the taxidermy witch. Well, we're talking about true crime. Tasty true crime. And we're on part 3 of Gary Ridgway. And we left off talking about in 1984, his body count leaving at 13. Okay. And then we talked about, so if you haven't seen part 1 and 2, go back and watch part 1 and 2. Dave Reichert and the task force, they're desperate at this point, and they're starting to save DNA on this Riverman that they on the Green River Killer that they cannot comprehend at this point, but they're saving it for some reason in case science escalates. Yeah? So, 2 years of killing, 13 bodies, and there are 12 to 15,000 suspects in the King County area and beyond, the area of Seattle. Later on, Gary will admit that every waking hour and every moment, whether it be work, sleep, kids, friends, sex, family, etc., the only thing he thought about was killing. So, again, in the last segment when we talked about Gary having his son and Gary seeing his son as something negative at first, but turning it into a fucked up positive, Gary Ridgway was seeing all the aspects of his life like this. He saw every single thing as an avenue of killing. He enjoyed his actions with no Jiminy Cricket type of conscience. He was a brilliant killing machine. Okay. He gets a high because he just keeps winning the game. That's what we talked about at the very end of the last number 2 Gary Ridgway episode, was that all he wanted was this power. And now that he's winning the game, he's just getting this humongous high. So, to throw law enforcement and the Green River Task Force off, he sent, to throw them off the scent, he used multiple pickup trucks and he repainted them. So, he worked at Kenworth Paint Company. So he had access to paint and to different vehicles because he's a single guy, and so he can just get different vehicles and paint them whenever he wants. So as he's picking up these prostitutes on Pack Highway, aka Aurora, aka Highway 99, he's disguising himself because he knows that he has to cover himself up to prostitutes and to sex workers and to people that may see him. So yeah, he got different pickup trucks, he painted them, he repainted them as often as he could. And remember, he's a painter by trade. Why are we talking about Ted Bundy now? Oh, right. So the Green River Task Force doesn't know what to do. They're at a point where there's 13 plus bodies found, and they have no leads, they have no solid suspects, they have nothing really to go on because remember, DNA wasn't as it is today, where you can just figure someone out. This is before that. So Ted Bundy, a killer from the local area, a serial killer from the local area, offers his opinions on the Riverman and on the Green River Killer. And I'm going to do this from memory, and then I'm going to read my notes. Okay, so it's interesting because, and I tend to agree with this, Ted Bundy states, and this is not a quote, Ted Bundy states that the reason why so many people are fascinated with necrophilia, strangulation, these sex acts that are aggressive and cruel, he contributes them to pornography and the way that pornography is escalating and changing throughout the years. And I agree with that. I agree with that. But does that mean that you're allowed to do these things? Absolutely not. But I agree with pornography or your mother, as in Gary's case, igniting something in you that's not exactly natural but is become a part of your being and surroundings and what you adapt to. This is why I love that I don't edit my videos, so that you can see what I actually say. Because it's true, it's raw. So, I completely agree with Ted Bundy that, like, pornography and the escalation of it, and that was in the 70s. Think of how it is in 2020. So I don't watch pornography anymore because it really traumatized me when I started kind of getting into it. I don't watch it anymore. No. And it's not even about like Ted Bundy's suggestion or whatever. It's because I knew in my kundalini, in my heart and my soul, that that was not productive to my sexual experience. A majority of what I do is just like within myself, which I think is great. I'm not harming myself. I'm not risking my health. There's a lot of things there. But pornography is a big, huge influence. And what happens in your childhood is a big, huge influence to these serial killers. And so, the task force of the Green River paired up with Ted Bundy. And I do believe, like I said, that it was Ted Bundy who offered his suggestions to help them because they were just lost. They were at a loss. Now, Ted Bundy was also a local Seattle serial killer who was a necrophiliac. And, hold on, I'm reading. Ted suggests that the Riverman probably likes pornographic material, because they're saying, like, what's the profile of the serial killer? Like, who are we looking for, Ted? Because it's right in your area, right? Right where you fucking left off, pretty much. And, Ted says, the Riverman probably likes pornographic material. He probably enjoys the hunt, which Gary does. He needs to gain power over his victims. Absolutely correct. And remember, as I said before, Ted Bundy was also not, what's the fucking word? The opposite of empowered. He was demeaned by a woman. He was left. And in his eyes, he saw that as this huge betrayal. And then it just morphs these serial killers' minds, man. Remember, as a mother, as a girlfriend, as a whatever, you can morph somebody's mind. So be careful as a parent. Be careful as a girlfriend. Be careful as a boyfriend to what you do to the psychology of people. Because it really does change folks. For the better or for the worse. So he suggests he enjoys the hunt. He suggests he need to gain power over his victims. Ted suggests that the Riverman may have necrophilia tendencies. Mom, I want a Pepsi. So Ted really helped them gain an insight that they didn't have before, says Dave Reichert, the head of the task force in Seattle. Ted really did help them. So if we can give nothing else to Ted Bundy, at least he helped us gain a profile for the Riverman, yeah? Rock sometimes, yeah, so Riverman was doing interesting things, like, he wasn't just leaving them and coming back. He was also placing rocks inside of their sexual organs, stuffing stones inside of their genitals, and posing the bodies a little bit when he was finally done with them. The Green River Killer. Meanwhile, oh yeah, so right, like we talked about, meanwhile, semen and other evidence, clothing, etc., was being stored in case something advanced would happen. Now, they didn't know, like I said, they didn't know what they were expecting to happen in science, but they just thought, like, we gotta keep some of this stuff because, like, there's a lot of women, you know, that are gone. The police recognized Gary Ridgway many times through the years of his killings as a John. If you don't know what a John is, it's a man who purchases prostitutes or sex workers. So the police, I just had 12 teeth removed. I have a little bit of a lisp. I embrace it. So the police recognized him as a John on Highway 99 strip during the years that the killings were going on. Now, Gary was questioned many times, and we'll talk about this in these videos. Where are we at time-wise? 11 minutes. We got some more. So, he was questioned, and he passed a polygraph. When he was recognized as a John on the strip, as a purchaser of sex workers. And it is not easy to pass a polygraph, even if you're a complete narcissist, right? You have to actually be a sociopath to pass a polygraph, and even then, it's very difficult. Let me explain to you why Gary Ridgway was able to pass a polygraph test. A polygraph test is a lie detector test. They hook up sensors all over your head, your arms, I believe your chest as well. And then there's a little thing that gauges where your nervous tendencies are. Where you get nervous about something, and it can tell if you're lying. Now listen to this. He was questioned and passed a polygraph. Side note, polygraph detects people's guilty emotions. A polygraph detects someone's guilty emotions. So if you're not guilty about something, if you do not feel guilty, like I said in video 1, I honestly believe that Gary thought that he was doing a service by getting rid of these sex workers. I honestly believe that. Well, this will kind of back up what I honestly believe, because I think Gary honestly believed that he was doing a service by getting rid of the sex workers, because if he was able to pass a polygraph test and have no guilt, no guilty emotions, then that's really, really, really something. You can't talk about many people in this world that could do that. So, unique human Gary was, okay? Later on, in 1997, he became a suspect again. Credit card records followed gas, there wasn't this DNA that they could just detect. Even though they had been saving it all these years, there wasn't just DNA that they could, dig up and just detect right to this person. So they had to do things like track your credit card records. And so they followed Gary, getting gas all over the frickin' county, where he was driving to find women up and down the strip, going out to the woods to do what he did, dumping the bodies, revisiting them. So one of the only things they saw was gas records, this guy's buying a lot of fucking gas for being this random, down on every other weekend. What do you do? Yeah? Okay. So In 1997, he became a suspect again. The credit card records followed gas, driving from here to there. He was always out and about, and he had no alibis for where he was during the killings. He was highly suspect. A warrant for Gary Ridgway's house came up empty. So they actually went to his house, they checked it out, everything was empty. You know why? Because Gary covered his fucking tracks. When he had a woman at his house, like I said in the last video, he would normally bring a sex worker to his residence, entice them in with, I have a son, he's here every other weekend, I'm a normal guy, I just like, I'm just lonely. Kill them, take them out to the Green River, partially bury them, come back to them. We talked all about that in the last video and the video before. Follow these videos if you haven't seen them, if you're interested. Now, he was really fucking meticulous. So, after he killed a woman in his home, because he would normally kill them in his home, and then he would take them somewhere to leave them. He put the sheets in laundry before he even got in the car. Like, he had a system. You kill 48 to 90 people in a span of 10 to 15 years, like, you've got a system and it works. So Gary would, like, put the sheets in the laundry before he even got in the car. He had a system. It worked. That way, if he was suspect, everything was clean when they got there. And that's exactly what happened. Was when the cops did come to his house on a warrant, they found nothing of the time. Not that they had like good DNA evidence, because we already talked about this, but they really found nothing. Time and time again, he slips through the law's hands. They see him as a John. They see him as a suspect. He's weird. People don't know about him. He just slips through over and over. And at this point, like I say, his feeling of, like, I got this is building and building and building. Like, he's got this. He's just dumping women anywhere, and he's dumping them, like, with no regard. And he's just, like, got this. But it's because DNA wasn't what it was. It wasn't then what it is today. And so he's just basically living on borrowed time, weren't you, Gary? By 1988, 40 plus women had been disappeared and disposed of. The killer was coined the Green River Killer, sometimes called the Riverman, still on the loose. Judith Lynch, wife number 3, and that's where we're going to leave off. Because the last time we left off at wife number 2, didn't we? Meredith. Or, what was her name? Martha? No, Marsha! Marsha. Comb your hair. Excuse me, we're going to leave off at wife number 3. And we're going to come back for segment number 4. So we're talking about Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, here in Seattle area. It's going to be many parts to this video, but I'm really excited to tell you, like, everything I know about it and exactly how I feel about it. So I think this will be a really different true crime series, because we're going to, like, see how a local person thinks about it. How do I feel about it, right? Alright, so thanks for joining me, Baby Firefly, the Taxidermy Witch, while we talked about some tasty true crime once again. And I'll see you next time. It's love and lightning out there, you guys. It really is. Bye.